Hey viewers, welcome to Real Astrology once again, and you know who's there on the left side of my screen. James Braha is here again, and it's always an honor to have him over on the Real Astrology. And thank you, sir, for being here again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And sir is going to be talking about a very hot topic, and that is marriage. How to see and what are the parameters to check marriage in a horoscope. I've started a series also. And this is a pleasure that you are also going to be talking about the same. That we are going to be covering the parameters of marriage, and sir is launching a book. Kindly say something about your book.
Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the book, but in a way that's going to give you information, because there was a lot that I put into this book, things that were not in the original book. This was the original book. It was 360 pages, and this is the new one, which is gigantic. This is 560 pages, so it added 200 pages. So it's there's a lot. I had written that book 35 years ago. 1985 was when it was written, and it came out in 1986. And everybody hailed it as, oh my gosh, we can finally understand how to do Hindu Vedic astrology. It was wonderful. But as the years went by, as I learned more and I found certain techniques that worked very well and certain ones that did not work so well. And also I followed the lead when I wrote that book, that planets in the 8th house and 12th house are terrible and someone's going to die early.
Right.
Someone's going to die early and the life is ruined. And, I was following the lead of the way the Hindu Vedic system works, but I did not, when planets were in the 8th house, I did not say the person is interested in astrology and psychic and metaphysical. When planets are in the 12th house, I did not say the person is going to go, highly on the path of moksha. I mean, I did a little bit, but not nearly as much. So the book has changed radically. It's changed radically. And let me just say something for people who might have already known about this book recently. I had priced the book on Amazon. You cannot get the hard copy in India or in
Right.
those Asian
Cost
countries.
is high. Yeah.
I think you can get it. Actually, someone said you can get it, but it's going to be $70-$80, which is a lot in rupees. But I lowered the price for ebooks. And with the ebooks, you should be able to get it not just on Kindle, but on all ebooks. And it should be $10, whatever that is in rupees. Okay. So this book now, the explanations of the famous horoscopes, that was a section that was 66 pages, and it was done by an astrologer, me, who had practiced Western astrology 4 or 5 years and Hindu Vedic for 2 years, not very long. So I did the best I could. Now that same section is 125 pages. I added Donald Trump 10 pages, but I also took out a few. So basically it's a lot bigger because it's much richer. It's much more accurate.
Right.
And then the planets and houses, that added another 100 pages or so. The reason that it added 150 pages to the maybe 100 pages to the planets and houses is not so much that Venus in the 5th house. If I was writing about Venus in the 5th house, that section did not necessarily get bigger. What got bigger is when I start to talk about the exalted planet Venus in the 5th and the fallen planet Venus in the 5th, then you get information that was not there before. For example,
That's lots.
I would say whenever Venus is fallen, there may be, and by fallen it means debilitated. Over here we use the word exalted and fallen. In India, exalted and debilitated. But I would say whenever Venus is fallen, then the person may have problems with the throat, the thyroid, the reproductive system. Okay. Jupiter in the 7th house, but fallen. Whenever Jupiter is fallen, the person may have problems with the liver, gallbladder, spleen. They may have arrogance. Whenever the moon is fallen, they will have women should have breast exams. It can affect the menstrual cycle. And with all of the fallen planets, now you've got 9 planets in 12 houses is 108 planets in houses.
Yeah.
So every time that I
That's
would get to a
expensive.
fallen planet, I
Right.
would say, if it was the sun is fallen in the 3rd house. I would explain it, exalted, fallen. Then I would say, in the fallen section, the person should wear a red ruby or red garnet in the sun dasha. He or she should chant mantras for the sun and keep Sundays as a sacred day. If Saturn is in trouble, the person should keep Saturdays restful. They should worship Lord Shiva. They should do mantras and yagyas for Saturn. You know, so that anybody who's using this as a reference text, they're going to learn things that I did not learn. First of
So
all,
you have remedies also, that means in that.
yes, the remedies
Wow.
for all the planets,
Wow.
but not just in one section. When you go to read this planet, you're going to see the remedies for this planet.
Great.
Okay.
Because
And
people want remedies also, when they have a problem, they want the, remedies
there's
as well.
108 planets in houses. There's 108 remedies.
Remedies. Wow.
And so you understand the planet doesn't have to be fallen. It could just be in trouble. And here are the remedies. This is what to do. Then there's Ayurveda. The Ayurveda I kept to the 1st house, just the 1st. If Venus, well, Venus is a little complicated. If Mercury is in the 1st house, the person has a Vata constitution.
Oh.
They will be brilliant, excitable, nervous, and they should avoid caffeine, alcohol, hot spices, things like that. If the person is Kapha, if they have Moon in the 1st house, they will be Kapha. So you learn these things. But one thing I want to say is, when I came back from India in 1982, no, 83, I went late 82 and then early 83. Then I came back, and then went back in 84. But if I was looking for health in the first few years I was doing Vedic astrology, I would look for the 1st house and the 6th house.
Right.
I didn't know. It took me time to find out. It doesn't matter what the 1st and 6th are doing. That's significant. But any planet that's highly afflicted, if it's Jupiter, problems with the liver, gallbladder, spleen. So as you're using the books as a reference text, you will very quickly know how to spot health problems and what the remedies are. So there's stuff like that, throughout the book.
Wow.
Another thing is, every time I come to Jupiter in this house, Jupiter exalted, Jupiter fallen, I give the explanations, and as soon as that's over, I say, Jupiter is the one planet that, when fallen, does not give the terrible results that you expect. Whenever I do Saturn through all the houses, Saturn is exalted, and it's great, it's wonderful, and then right under that, it says, whenever Saturn is exalted, it rarely gives the good that you're expecting. So, this sort of stuff is throughout. And then Kuja dosha, Mangal dosha, Mangalik. That's Mars in the 1st, 4th, 7th, 8th, or 12th. Now, in the original book, I would just say, if it's in these houses, the person has marriage troubles. In this book, it says if they are from the foreign culture where they can arrange the marriage, they should arrange it with another person with Kuja dosha. If they're in the Western culture, they should wait until the late 20s or early 30s. So that's in every time you read Mars in the 1st, 4th, 7th, 8th, or 12th, the explanation is there. That's so it just has a lot of extra material. And then going through the book, the planets and houses, there were lots of places with the planets and the houses where I said, well, this planet means this and the house means this, so it probably means this. Or, I see the other books, what they say. This time, I pulled out a lot of stuff that, after 35 years of practice, doesn't really pan out so well. And I add the things that I have found. I talk about my mentor Padia, who is in Bombay. He's still in Bombay. He's 80, still doing astrology. Little, I don't know how much, but I know he's still doing some. But Padia used to say to me, I have marked this. I've seen that when this planet is in this house and this combination, this is what happens. And he would go, I have marked this. When he says I have marked, that means don't even think about it. It works.
Yes.
So that's the kind of things that I try to put in the book, things that I have found that are not obvious, And, Saturn in the fourth house, the person's depressed, they have heart problems. But what I found from experience was that people that have Saturn in the fourth house, they have a big heart.
Okay.
In other words, everybody talks about them like, oh my God, they have such a big heart. Even though they've got heart problems and depression, whatever it is, when they have that, they also have a big heart. That's not something that you're going to find out. That's the kind of thing.
Experience, with experience you have.
Exactly. And then there's things like when Venus is in the ninth house, the person's guru treats them like a lover. If a person has Venus in the ninth, the guru takes them under their wing. They tell them secrets. They tell them things they don't tell other people. This you find from experience. Saturn in the third house, the person doesn't just have troubles with brothers and sisters. They have troubles with all relatives. Generally, none of these things are absolute, but generally, they have troubles with all relatives. And generally, they are depressed. They are pessimistic. They are stubborn-minded and pessimistic. But these are things you're not going to find except through experience. Okay, so the book is filled with those kinds of little pieces of information. Mercury in the seventh house. A person with Mercury in the seventh house, there's many people have 2 marriages or 3 marriages. But if you see someone with Mercury in the seventh house, they are very likely to have 2 loves in their life. They may have many affairs. They could have even 3 or 4 marriages. They will have 2 that are the major ones, just because Mercury is dual.
Yes.
Another one that I mentioned, that I've been talking about recently, is that people with, if you read in the books, out of all the planets, Saturn in the 7th, Sun in the 7th, Mars in the 7th, the one where it's likely to say in the texts, the person has a spouse who dies, is Mars in the 7th. Now, this does not mean that everybody with Mars in the 7th has a spouse that dies, but it definitely means that more people, like when you see people that have a spouse die, there's a strong likelihood Mars will be there.
Yeah.
But the little gem that I discovered was that so many times the person with Mars in the 7th is present when the spouse dies. Now, I'm going to give you a really good example of this. Okay. So
that's interesting.
I completely rewrote all of the famous horoscopes. I thought, if you go and listen to my YouTubes over this year, you're going to hear me with interviews in March saying, I think the book is going to be ready in April. And then I would say,
Yes,
I think it's ready in May. I think it's in June. I feel like I started to feel like a liar. Shut your mouth. It took, because every time I would get to, I thought I would just edit. I was just going to edit, revise a little bit. But every time I got to a horoscope, I saw all sorts of things I didn't see before. So everything expanded. So I'm doing the chart of Jackie Kennedy Onassis.
Okay.
And I see in the horoscope, in the natal horoscope, Rahu in the 7th, a powerful husband. I think it's aspected well, powerful husband. The 11th, the 7th ruler's in the 11th, meaning that the partner may be wealthy. Right. So this she had, right?
Right.
But she also had a spouse assassinated sitting 1 foot away from her.
Yes.
Now, if you look at the Navamsha for her, the ascendant is Taurus. Okay. However, the birth time is not perfect. It's a 2:30 birth time. Okay. And it's from memory. Okay. So it's not, so in the Lois Rodden or Astrodienst data bank, which is the best data bank I've ever found, Lois Rodden or Astrodienst, it says it's from memory. Now, so it's 2:30. Whenever it's on the hour, half hour, it's not likely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you back it up, so with the Taurus ascendant in the Navamsha, there's no big problems. Back it up 10 minutes
Right.
to Aries. You
Mm.
have Mars in the seventh house in a bad sign, Libra.
Libra. Mm-hmm.
You have Sun in the seventh house, fallen, debilitated.
Yes.
You have the seventh house ruler, Venus, in the sixth house in Virgo. The seventh house is a complete disaster
Disaster.
with Mars in the seventh in a bad sign. So, those are the kind of things. Another thing is like Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi, now there is some disagreement about his birth time. And when I wrote this book, there was no disagreement about Lenin's birth time, Lyndon Johnson, President Johnson's birth time, and Mahatma Gandhi's. There was no disagreement. Now there's all kinds of disagreements. But the chart for me that works with Mahatma Gandhi is Libra. Now here's a man who had Mars, Venus in the first house, very tightly conjunct.
Yes.
I remember when I was with, I think it was Santanam, my first teacher.
Yes. Yes.
And he I had a friend's horoscope. I had 25 horoscopes with me. There was a chart in there of a friend, and he had Venus, Mars in the first house. And he said, this man will be immoral. He will sleep with so many women. It was completely accurate. Mahatma Gandhi had Venus, Mars in the first house, which is an angular house. So it
Right.
makes leadership. But he committed himself to celibacy. And it was very difficult. He tried and failed, tried and failed, tried and failed. And then he succeeded. How did this man with Venus, Mars in the first house achieve long-lasting celibacy? It's because the tight Venus-Mars conjunction is tightly aspected by Jupiter.
Okay.
Is tightly aspected by Jupiter.
Mm.
And Mercury is also in the mix. I think Mercury's in the first house. So the Venus-Mars is aspected by two benefics.
Mm.
So those are the kinds of things that I put in the book, things that you don't necessarily see. Another one was Francis Ford Coppola, the director of the Godfather movies,
Mm-hmm.
very famous director.
Mm-hmm.
He had a son who died tragically at a young age, maybe 20 or something, in a boating accident.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not so obvious from the horoscope until you realize, and I don't think I realized when I wrote the first book, I don't think I realized that Coppola had Kalasarpa yoga.
Okay.
I had spoken about Kalasarpa from some other charts, but not that. So I'm looking at this like, oh my God, he's got Kalasarpa yoga.
Mm.
Kalasarpa yoga, he's got Ketu in the fifth house.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Rahu in the 11th. Now, Kalasarpa yoga, sometimes it makes these extreme problems. And when it does, not always, but 60 or 70% of the time, if it creates huge problems, 60 or 70% of the times, the problems occur in the houses where Rahu and Ketu sit.
Mm.
So Ketu's in the fifth. The fifth ruler, Mars, is in the first. That's a nice placement.
Mm-hmm.
However, Ketu is 19 degrees. If I remember correctly, Ketu is 19 degrees in the fifth house, and Mars is 19 degrees in the first house. So not only is the Kalasarpa in the fifth, but Ketu is aspecting that Mars. And by the way, when I was in India, neither of my teachers used Rahu Ketu aspects. They said, yes, they're said to throw aspects, but nobody uses them. I started using them about 4 or 5 years into my practice because what I found was that if I looked at the aspects alone, I couldn't see very much. But I noticed that whenever there was a planet or house that was afflicted by a bad aspect from Saturn or Mars, if there was a bad aspect to that house or planet and Rahu or Ketu, the problems became severe. I said, well, then that must mean these aspects work, but they're not completely negative. I mean, they are negative, but they are also, Rahu is power and Ketu is psychic and metaphysical and, things like that. Another thing I mention in the book is cultures, the cultures.
Okay.
So if you're doing a chart, I mean, when I do charts for Indians, I see in the chart, oh, there's trouble with children. No, my child's an angel. I see troubles with the parents. No, my parents are fantastic. They're not lying. They're not lying. The cultures are different. There's
True.
much closer family life over there. We had a famous
Mm.
astrologer named Chakrapani in America. He was very
Yes.
famous. And people would say, oh, there's a famous Indian astrologer coming to America. He said, oh, he's going to fail. He would laugh. He's going to fail. I said, what do you mean he's going to fail?
Yeah.
Well, because he's going to come over here and he's going to see, bad aspects that would cause divorce that would never cause divorce in India. He's going to see planets in
Mm.
the third house that make a person an artist over here that would never make an artist in India. So you take that into account. Another thing that is very prominent in the book is the bhava chart. I recently
Okay.
found that too many people are not using the bhava chart. So
Mm-hmm.
in the original ancient system, if the ascendant is 2 degrees Taurus
Mm-hmm.
and the sun is 28 degrees Virgo, then Virgo's in the 5th house.
Fifth house.
Or
Yeah.
if the ascendant's 2 degrees Taurus and Mars is in 28 Taurus, Mars is in the 1st house. But in the
Right.
bhava chart, it's
Mm-hmm.
too far away from the ascendant. So now it becomes, if Mars is 28 Taurus and the ascendant's 2 or 3 or 5 Taurus, it's a 15-degree marker. You go 15
Mm-hmm.
before and 15 after the ascendant degree, that's the 1st house. So you have to do it both ways. You have to,
Correct.
Mars would be in the 1st and the 2nd. I learned
Mm-hmm.
this with Santanam because one day he would say, "Oh, look, Jupiter's in the 7th house, but it's fallen. She's gonna have marriage problems." A week later, he'd say, "Oh, look, Jupiter's in the 8th house. She might commit suicide." I go, "What?" I said, "I thought it's in the 7th house," and he go, "Yes, but still." And he didn't
Mm.
explain it's the
Plain.
bhava
Yeah.
chart. So
Right.
in the chart, in the famous horoscopes, especially Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
So Donald Trump has an early Leo ascendant, 5 or 6 degrees Leo, and Rahu and Sun are in the 10th house, aspected by a full moon aspecting Taurus.
Right.
The 10th house is Taurus. Sun Rahu is very powerful in the
Mm-hmm.
10th, aspected by a full moon aspecting Taurus, aspected by a stationary Jupiter.
Okay.
The 10th house is phenomenal, but it also, if they're in 27, 28 degrees, they're also in the 11th house, which is large sums of money.
Right.
His stationary Jupiter is in the house of money. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was a little child, it's in a bad sign, Virgo. So he had illegal money right away. His father made this little 2-year-old kid the
Yeah.
landlord. So all the money went into Donald Trump's horoscope. This was written in the New York Times or somewhere.
Okay.
So he had this kind of illegal money. By the time he was 5 or 7, he was like a millionaire.
Millionaire already.
Yeah, but it was illegal. It was
Yeah.
corrupted money.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you take the Jupiter, which is in a late degree,
Mm-hmm.
now it goes to the 3rd house. The
Okay.
3rd house is the arts, music, dance, and drama.
Right.
And his moon in the 4th house is in a late degree. It moves to the 5th house.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a guy who was on a television show for 10 years and made hundreds of millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
So the bhava chart, it comes into the analysis of many of these horoscopes.
Yes.
And so people that are reading this book, you have to read the section on famous horoscope. You have to read it 3, 4, 5 times because
Definitely. Right.
every time you read it, you're going to see something different.
Different. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's this book is, I had no idea I'd spend a year on it. And my wife, I was frustrated. I started writing 2 years ago, updating all my books,
Yeah, I know.
and I revised the Ancient Hindu for a Bulgarian edition last summer.
Right.
So I thought it would be very quick. I kept waiting for it to be over and over. It kept not being over, and I would complain, and my wife would say, "But James, it's so important. The students are going to love it."
Yeah, I'm sure. We're waiting for it, actually. So we can grab the copy on Amazon. I think the ebook that's available there.
The ebook should be available
Mm-hmm.
on any ebook platform. Should be,
Okay. Okay.
but
Okay.
definitely Kindle for sure, and it should be on the others too. The
Mm-hmm.
actual book, I'm told that the actual book can be bought, but it's just costly.
Yes, the
Okay.
hard copy is
Yeah.
going to be, yeah.
The hard copies are available United States, United Kingdom, Canada, France, Italy, and Japan.
Great.
After that, it's mostly the ebook.
Yeah, the dispatching charges are pretty high. No, no issues. People will grab their copies, if they want to read it. Ebooks are also friendly, these days people opt for that as well.
Yeah.
Perfect.
You know, it would be really helpful. I realize this. Everybody writes their books when they're 30 and 35 and 40 to gain fame. They
Mm-hmm.
should be writing these kind of books in their 60s.
60s, yes. The
That's what I
experience.
came to
Huh?
realize. Yeah.
You yourself took so long. Last time when you had been over on the channel, you said that it's going to come out soon. And it's been, I think, 6 months already. So yeah, I
I
know.
had I
You were
had
not
no idea.
aware.
It kept it. The thing is, every time I would look at something, I said, "Oh, I can make this better. Oh,
Yeah.
I can make this
Yeah.
better." I'm glad that I waited.
Yes. Yes. This is the right time actually to launch the book. Yes. Great. We are lucky. We are lucky. We'll be, obviously, I'm going to be picking that up for sure. I'm going to be blocking that first. And
The preface of this book is 12 pages.
okay.
I suggest reading the
Read.
preface at least
Hmm.
twice. The
Sure.
preface is very, very important. It talks about so many issues.
Oh, really? Okay.
And the other thing I want to say is that what I got out of this
Mm-hmm.
after I was done writing it, I came to realize that everybody has to find their own way. The
Mm,
reason for this is because I am always looking for the truth and the practical, not the philosophical. So
right.
I'm writing, this is how it really works. This is how it really works. This is how it really works.
Mm-hmm.
And then I say, but you can't use 6 charts. You can't use the natal and then the Navamsha as a natal, and then the Bhava, and then the Chandra Lagna, and then the Aruda Lagna, and then the Karakamsha. Now, if you have 6 charts, you can find anything you want. So
Mm,
I advise against that.
mm,
However, however, there are astrologers that will use 6 charts and they will use them psychically and they'll use them properly. So I do astrology the way I do, but everybody must find their own way. I give you everything I can find to work. And this is interesting. Somebody just contacted my teacher Padia to get a reading,
oh, is
and
it?
he's Indian, and he emailed me and he said, "My God, he's so practical and down to earth and unpretentious." Which I said, "That's why I chose him." I was in the room with 8 astrologers in India,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, "That's the guy I want, down to earth." For me, I
Yeah.
wasn't interested in the philosophical or the scriptures.
Mm-hmm. So that's great. We are going to be, we are looking forward to it definitely, and I'm sure it's a consolidated package that you have launched, and it's going to help the beginners also a lot.
But when
I'm
you
sure.
when you get if you buy the book, watch out. It's huge. It has
It has a lot of material, I'm sure.
large print, and it's huge, and it's heavy.
Wow.
I didn't know. I didn't really,
But it's so
till I got.
satisfying, sir, isn't it? For you yourself, you must have, because you have put your heart and soul into it. You have your experience, so it's like, you've put everything into it, whatever you
Yeah,
have learned, whatever you
yeah,
have experienced. So that's something
yeah,
which, it's like serving on the platter. So I don't think so we can miss out on that. We must grab the
yeah.
copy, and it's really a privilege to have astrologers like you, and you have taken us forward, taken astrology forward as a subject. We're really grateful. I always say, there are a couple of names, we must, thank them: Dr. Ken Rao, you, and
Mm,
there are a couple of other names, who have actually, uh,
yeah,
really contributed, like,
yeah.
exponentially. They're
Yes,
really,
yeah, 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 yeah.
so I
I
really
have
am
a
thankful. I'm
I
born in
have
this
a
era.
I have a letter in my scrapbook from Robert Hand, who is the Western world's foremost scholar.
Yes.
And I happened to find that letter, and he wrote, he had read the book, and he said, I want to write a little bit of information you can use as a blurb, how good the book is.
Okay.
And he's my hero. He has always been my hero.
And
Yeah.
we all must actually not confine us to the books. We must keep on exploring. We must keep on learning and, implementing and bringing new things.
You have to expand on it. And
Exactly.
when I started Western astrology, I found this book called Astrology, A Cosmic Science by Isabel Hickey.
Mm-hmm.
She wrote the book when she was 70.
Okay.
I think 65 or 70.
Okay.
It was tremendous because it was experiential.
Yes.
And I said to myself, I'm going to learn everything in this book. It's
Right.
impossible.
Yeah.
I'm going to memorize everything in this book, and you can't do it.
No,
But
unless you
but
keep on, doing the charts, reading people, psychological, problems also people have. How do you handle those astrologically? So that is also very important. And you see, one-on-one reading is definitely, it's different. What you're writing is the rule. That's a rule book. You can refer to that. But how you formulate everything, that's a different, recipe
you know,
altogether. Your own recipe.
something. I've written 5 astrology books.
Right.
This is a 6th in a way, but
Right.
one thing I learned 10, 20 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
every time I write a book, I think I have written everything I know, and then the book comes out, and I say, I forgot to say this, and I forgot to say that, and why didn't I say? And it doesn't stop.
Right. No, that's true. We don't want to keep anything to us. We want to share it. Whatever knowledge you have, that's the
Yeah.
best part about it. That you put everything into it. Because of that, it got so it is launching so late. But because you could have just written it and you put an end, fine. But you wanted to give it to the society back. Okay.
The other the
That's
other
great.
the other the other thing is I'm in the Saturn dasha now. Saturn is my best planet. This book,
Uh-huh.
the first one, was written in the Saturn Bhukti. It was
Okay.
in Rahu. It was in Rahu Saturn. This one is Saturn dasha. It's way better.
Wow.
But what I found is that whenever I'm doing a horoscope and a person comes to Saturn dasha, this is what I tell them.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming they're not 30 years old. I mean, better to have Saturn when you're 50 or 60.
Yes.
But when you're in Saturn, I tell them, try to do something that is concrete, lasting, something that's going to last. Build a building, write a book, something that's going to last, because in the Saturn dasha, you have the most patience and discipline and organizational ability. So the only thing, I could have gone another year writing this, but because I started writing 2 years ago, I wanted some sense of completion. That's what was making me crazy. I didn't mind. Every time I would do a horoscope, I would start learning something about that person that I didn't know before. I was doing Jimmy Carter's horoscope. You don't get to the presidency without a strong Mars. Everybody knows Jimmy Carter. He has Saturn and Moon in the first house. So he's very humble, and he's a leader by virtue of wisdom rather than all the presidents that are Marsy. But guess what?
Mm-hmm.
His ascendant ruler is Venus,
Mm-hmm.
and it's in the 11th, aspected by Mars. And if I remember the houses correctly, Venus in the 11th, Mars aspecting the ascendant ruler Venus within 2 degrees. So this man is very, very humble, and he's very kind, and he wants to help everybody. You don't get to the presidency without being Marsy. And I say in the explanation, I say the key to understanding Jimmy Carter is 2 planets, Saturn and Mars. They are monstrously strong. I had the discipline to sit and do this and take this.
Yes, Saturn does that.
Here's the thing. I learned this when ancient Hindu astrology came out. Everybody bought it for years and years and years.
Right.
When I came out with the art and practice of ancient Hindu astrology,
Mm-hmm.
that particular book, the people that got it, they loved it, but very few, it sold much, much less. And I thought about it, I said, how can this book that is so much better.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized not everybody, not everybody should be able to do this.
Right.
So, I was talking to a friend who translates scriptures,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, why are some of the scriptures so bad in
Right.
terms of the explanations? Some of them are just terrible. They make no sense. I
Absolutely.
think it's because the translations they go from Hindi, Sanskrit to Hindi to English. But
Ultimately.
he said it
Mm.
is possible that the sages did not want the real truth to come to everybody. Only the people that deserve it should get
Yes.
it. So it doesn't matter, sells a lot, doesn't sell a lot. Believe me, I never did astrology for money. Never.
No, it's, yeah, that's why I said it's not because of money. I
Right,
want that it should, the book should spread the knowledge, that
right.
you have imparted through this book. So
But
that's my idea. It's not about
as
money.
long as it gets into the right hands,
Absolutely.
they
Absolutely.
will then spread it to their students. It doesn't need I have to tell you, in the original book, there's a warning, and I kept it in this one. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a warning that if you know how to do this, you're
Mm-hmm.
going to foretell people's lives, and you're going to see deaths, and you're going to see all sorts of things.
Absolutely.
And you need to be able to handle that.
True.
And
No, no,
it's not so easy.
everybody's, it's not everybody's cup of tea, first of all, and if they are not taking it seriously, it's not worth it, actually. It's not worth grabbing this copy then. It's better
Yeah,
that you don't.
it's just for the people that are serious.
Serious, yes. And you did it in Saturn, so Saturn is serious as it is. So we must understand that we have to be very serious if we are reading this book. And you have put your, sweat and blood into it. So definitely, it must be really good, I'm sure.
I have to tell you something.
Sure.
The difference, in India, people know how to be disciples, they know how to be students.
Yes.
In the West,
Mm-hmm.
practicing astrology is not always easy.
No.
They don't have any
You have to have
necessary.
that cultural background, actually, that
I
could be.
paid my money. Now give me the reading. It reminds me of a very funny story.
Mm-hmm.
When I got to India, I went to see Ghanshyam Joshi. The tourist agency gave me his name. I went to see him. There were 8 astrologers in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Padia took my chart, looked at it, says you got married at 21 or 23. I
Uh-huh.
said, that's the guy I want for my teacher.
Okay.
He said, so he said, it'll be too difficult for you to come to my place. So I'll come to yours, right?
Mm-hmm.
Padia taught me at 9 o'clock at night until 11.
Mm-hmm.
That's how he was so busy. But he came 9 o'clock to 11 at my hotel. The first night he got there, I had only been there, it was my second day. The first day there, I found my teacher. The second day, I was waiting for him to come to my hotel room.
Mm-hmm.
It was 9 o'clock at night. I was asleep.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear, I think there's someone here to see you.
Okay.
I got up.
Uh-huh.
I was mortified. I said, I'm so sorry. I fell asleep. I'm so sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And he said to me, when you are coming from halfway around the world to learn this, I know that you're serious.
You're serious.
I was so relieved. I felt so
I
stupid.
know.
And then he said,
Yeah.
and then he said, I think you must deserve to get knowledge because I'm coming to you. Come, let's see. And he starts to look at the 9th house and he says, yes, the 9th ruler is in the 5th house, aspected by Jupiter. You deserve to get
Deserve
knowledge.
to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. So the student was ready and the guru
Yeah.
appeared.
Oh, big time.
Lovely. Lovely. That's
Yeah.
great.